We're in order with your application. That's silly, I know, but.
All right, you are all set, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Heather. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Town of Henrietta Planning Board meeting on Tuesday, July 20th, 2021. We will begin tonight with a public hearing for application number PB 327. It's York subdivision. Will the secretary please take the roll? Heather, Becky,
I'm here, sorry.
that's okay.
Walter Liss. I can't hear you. Is your microphone on?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Rick Page,
Here.
Craig Eckert,
Here.
Patricia Brill, Stephen McIntyre,
Here.
Matthew Borkowski,
Here.
James Gruner as chair.
Here.
Thank you. A public hearing is being held before the Henrietta Planning Board today, Tuesday, July 20th, 2021 at 7 p.m. in the main meeting room, 475 Calkins Road, Henrietta, New York, 14467, to hear all persons with regard to the following application. PB 327 York subdivision for preliminary subdivision approval of a 4-lot residential subdivision on 1.87 acres of property located on Jefferson Road in an R120 zone district. This public hearing is being held so that you, the general public, can present your opinions to the Henrietta Planning Board regarding subdivision concerns specifically limited to trees, the lots themselves, open space, the infrastructure, utilities, sidewalks, and flood-prone areas. May I ask who's here representing the application number PB 327, please? Just introduce yourself, please, and if you have a business card, you can leave it on the table.
I apologize, I don't have an easel with me but if there's any questions, I
Actually,
can certainly.
Got one over here if you're.
Oh.
Thank you, Patty.
I want to let them know
I'm-
to point towards the audience.
Yeah, I might, may I have you please, maybe put it over to the side there, maybe tilt it back a little bit so the audience, part of the audience can see that as well.
Mostly for them.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Matt Newcomb, which one of the renderings are you going to share first? I can share the screen online.
He has the cluster 278.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Matt Newcomb. I'm with Pastor Associates. Our offices are 242 West Main Street in Rochester, New York. I'm here on behalf of Aiden Urich, the developer of the Urich subdivision. Yep, that's the one. We've been here a couple of times already. The parcel is located on Jefferson Road, just west of New Tudor Road, and is about 1.87 acres in size. The parcel is zoned R120, which allows for single-family residential homes. Our initial application included 4 single-family residential homes that were code compliant. We came before this board and there was some suggestions and recommendations that we kind of went back with. We also met with some town staff on some of the options that we have to try to mitigate the development footprint. With that said, we decided or elected to go with the town law 278 as a tool to be able to get the same number of lots and minimize the development area. So what we're proposing now is 2 duplex homes that are a little bit closer to Jefferson Road, a little bit closer together, which shrinks down the development area and allows for us to provide a conservation easement along the homes that are on New Tudor Road, as well as the southern end of the property. In addition to that, because we were kind of under an acre of disturbance, it was questionable whether or not we needed to do stormwater. We met with town staff again. They requested that we investigate some stormwater options. So we're able to also provide some stormwater mitigation for our project and any of the uphill land. as well as the fire truck turnaround that helps accommodate them. So I think this plan, again, we met a second time prior to coming here officially for preliminary approval to discuss this plan, and it was very well received. We've been to the Conservation Board. We've made some changes for screening, and they were very happy with what we did there. There was a request that we put some fencing along the west side of the proposed access drive, which we show on this plan. Our next step is hopefully to obtain approval, preliminary approval tonight. And then we need to go to the town board to ask for approval to utilize the town law 278 tool to go down this path. But I think it's a much better solution than we initially proposed, and I feel you guys agree as well. So if there are any questions, feel free to ask me.
Thank you, Matt. I think we'll open it up to the residents at this point.
Sure.
And if we have any questions, we will
Sounds
bring it
good.
back up. So thank you very much for that overview. Are there any residents that have any comments or questions? You're welcome to step up to the podium. And please provide your name and your address.
It's Howard Marzell, 82 New Tudor Road. I'd like to inquire further about the setback from the property lines. I understood that originally they were like 80 feet, and I want to know what they are now. I also want to know what the provisions are being made in the planning for the tree line. And if there's burns there, what is there still to preserve the sound and light barriers to Jefferson Road?
Howard, may I ask a question? Can you please spell your last name, please?
MERZEL.
M-E-R?
MERZEL.
Oh, sorry. And it was 82 New Tudor, correct?
82.
Thank you.
Matt, can you address the question, or Chris? I don't know which one might be more appropriate.
This is
Yeah,
site, but this is a subdivision.
I've just got to look at the plan to see the.
thank you.
This is a subdivision, not a site plan approval. Okay. Yeah.
So the setbacks that are shown are fairly consistent with what the single family lots are, with the exception of the fact that there's a property line that goes between the two duplexes. And the only setback that was really changed from the initial single family lot subdivision was a setback off of Jefferson Road. That was required, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it was 75 feet. And we pulled it closer to Jefferson Road, which again, we can use the town law 278 tool to do that, to try to maximize the amount of buffer space that we have on the southern end of the property. As far as berming goes, we're limited to what we can do versus taking down more trees to create more buffers, or I'm sorry, berming, because that would require us to do that. So we feel that the trees are a better buffer than berming, but we also, I don't have the landscaping plan in front of you, but we're also proposing some new screening, there it is, behind the two duplexes as well, to help screen in between them and behind the buildings.
I'm sorry. My concern is the property over here as to what is potentially historic planted in this area and what this setback is from here and here to the property line.
Sure. So that corner we're intending to leave as is. You can see I'm going to point out the tree line.
Well, can we, yeah, we can't see on that screen.
Yeah, can you describe what corner he's talking about?
Yep. So the corner the gentleman is talking about is this corner down here. And so here's you guys. This corner down here. So our tree line kind of comes up and goes around the pond area. So the goal is to maintain all the existing foliage here, which was also part of the reason of shifting this whole development up and minimizing and shortening the setback off of Jefferson Road. The exact setback from there to there is more significant than it was on the single family homes. The single family homes, it was a 33-foot off this property line. And that brought you to about here. We're much more significant now. I don't have the exact dimension, but.
Matt, did you want to mention anything about the conservation easement?
Yeah, And I apologize for not getting more detail about that.
Let me know, if you want, you can bring the easel over and face that towards us. That way you don't have to hold it, because the residents can see the,
Okay, I don't mind holding it,
Yeah, okay.
actually, it's fine. So as part of this, Town Law 278, there's an incentive to provide a conservation easement that is non-developable area. And that conservation easement, I'll trace it with my finger, goes here and along the back. So this area remains non-developable and it also encompasses.
Can you show them on the
Yep,
screen too? as
I'll
well?
show you, I'll show you. The conservation easement runs along here, and this is the outline. So this is all conservation easement in the back, which is where we intend to maintain the existing tree line. That conservation easement is about 7/10 of an acre in size. The whole site is 1.87 acres in size. So we're only developing less than an acre or about an acre of land for this project.
And what's the plan for the conservation easement? Is that what you've worked out already?
The plan for the conservation easement is to not go in there, other than to construct a stormwater management facility.
Right, who's going to manage it?
An HOA will maintain
HOA.
it, yep.
thank you, Matt. Anybody else would like to speak? Good evening.
Hi. Ron Ketchum, I live at 20 New Twitter. You know, everything's right behind us. I just want to know what guarantee there's going to be that that 20-foot buffer is going to stay that way. And when they start constructing and stripping the land back there, that that is going to stay 20 feet. If that moves 2 feet, we're going to lose a lot of trees, which will shield the new development from our homes. So we're kind of concerned about that.
Understood.
Mr. Chairman, can I handle that one?
Yes, Mr. Martin, thank you.
Again, Chris Martin, Director of Engineering and Planning. So on these typical projects like this, before they even start construction, we have a site meeting with them. And as part of that, they have to put up orange construction fence where that 20-foot is. And sometimes, depending on the grading, if there's like a tree that's right around that 20-foot mark and we can try to preserve that, we will, or we'll have the developer's contractor do that. But the trick that we found is to have these meetings prior to any clearing and to also put up this orange construction fence so that they know where the clearing limits are and they don't stray into it.
Right.
That
Okay.
would be a requirement of the planning board, or could be.
And the other, not really a concern, but I sent pictures to you, Chris and Craig, from Greenpoint Trail, which is right down the road. And I think I showed you guys how they did it with the pine trees that they put in to block any openings that were in there to help us a little bit.
And again, as part of this application, what we've asked the developer to do, what the developers, we've asked the developer to do is once you clear, there is going to be open spots.
Right.
And we make that a condition, or for our comments, that they have to try to infill that with other types of vegetation.
Right.
Whether it's pine trees, spruce trees that are green all year long, or maybe it's more deciduous tree. But sometimes you can't tell until the clearing is done where those spots are.
Oh, exactly.
But that is one thing that we're asking the developer to do as part of this project.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ketchum. Anyone else?
Wait in line, you think?
Yeah, Heather, is there anyone online that would like to speak?
I am not seeing anybody at this time, Jim.
Okay, thank you, Heather.
Okay. Hi, guys.
Good evening.
I'm Renee Jacobson, back again. I have a couple questions. First one, so I'm sort of near where Howard was talking about, that southwest part of the parallelogram,
Renee, what is your address?
78 New Tudor. Yeah. And so my question is like, I'm trying to understand the new road, which is very different from the last plan. And so that's the turnaround, right? That we were talking about, that you have to have the turnaround. So I'm trying to understand lighting, which was a big concern to me. I don't know, I'm like, maybe I'm a weirdo, but we have a lot of, wildlife back there. And I've lived in other parts of the country and the world where you have to be really careful about lights, and it interrupts wildlife and things that move around at night or whatever. And just my own, darkness. It's very dark back there now, which I like. And so I'm wondering if the developer can talk about the lighting situation with regard to that, the road, I imagine there's going to be lights or some kind of, it's going to be lit, or you're shaking your heads no?
I don't believe there's streetlights, Matt, no.
No lights back there at all?
There would
Okay.
just be any lighting on the houses.
Crosstalk.
Yes, go ahead.
Maybe.
Microphone, please.
Grab the mic. Thank you.
You can sit at that chair if you want.
Important now. There'll be maybe a lantern pole in front, like a residential light,
Like a post
potential.
light?
I'm sorry.
Like a post light maybe?
Yes, like a
In
small.
front? You mean like in the front of the development?
No, like in front of the house. It'd be similar to a single family residential development with, there will not be any street lighting. There may be some typical lights that you see on either side of the garage.
Okay.
Attached to the house, but nothing that lights the street.
Okay, two other things. Somehow I missed this. Are these multi-level, one level?
I believe it's the developer's intent to do one story.
One story?
yeah.
And there's one other question. Oh, so I was just curious, sewer, the last time the sewer was gonna be tapping in, what's happening
Sure.
with sewer? And then
I
I'm
can
good.
Touch on that, actually. The sewer was originally going to be run down, it'd be the east side of the property. But now that we're doing the conservation easement there and looking to preserve the existing foliage as much as we can, and also the benefit of being able to shift this development up shortens the sewer run a little bit, which allows us to run it along the roadway, so that there's no impact to the back or this corner as well.
Thank you, Matt.
I did have one other thing. I used to live in Brighton, and actually they had a pretty strict rule that you're not allowed to pave more than 25% of a property. You can't have a driveway or roofing can't be more than 25% of the property, or whatever. You have to try and maintain green space. And I just wondering, nothing like that in Henrietta to try and protect green space or anything, because that's a road and there's the roofs and there's not a lot of green left there. So I was just wondering, nothing like that in the town code?
We don't have something like that in the town code. However, Matt, I bet if you were to do the calculations, you'd find that this is probably about 25% or less.
Yeah, I'm, based on looking at it, I'm sure we have them. I just don't have them in front of me, the calculations, but I'm pretty confident that it's less than 25% of the lot.
All set? Yep, thank you. Anyone else, please? Heather, anybody online at this moment?
Still nothing at this time.
Okay, thank you. I'll open it up to the board. If we have any questions for Mr. Newcomb at this point, I'll start with Mr. Borkowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is for the public hearing, so I'm gonna defer to the next section depending on how we get there. Because I do have a lot of questions, but not pertaining to what we're doing for the neighbors here. I guess I do have one question. What did we do for kind of a neighborhood meeting, town meeting with you and the neighbors?
We never held a neighborhood meeting. We kind of relied mainly on the initial planning board meeting or application that we made that gets advertised publicly. I'm not sure how you guys advertise that, but typically that's what we relied on, was notifying the neighbors in that manner.
I feel that that's us doing our due diligence, but it might have been nice for you to do some of yours. Holding something like that, this is a contentious little development. It has been, you've been here.
Yep.
So holding a meeting like that, you could get in front of some of these comments. We can talk about them a little bit more. So I would have liked for you guys to have at least reached out. If nobody showed up, great. And then you could say nobody cared,
Sure.
but people care.
Yep.
So that's all I have, Mr.
Appreciate
Chairman.
that.
Thank you, Mr. Borkowski. Mr. Eckert?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Regarding the preliminary subdivision, I do not have any comments. Mr. Martin and I did meet with the residents on site. I have addressed a lot of those comments with the developer and the same communication that's been going on. So we've been still working on that. And that's, I believe, more part of the site plan as well that needs more addressing. So, but as far as the preliminary subdivision goes, I have any comments.
Okay, thank you,
you.
Mr. Eckert. Chair will recognize Mrs. Brill.
Nothing at this time.
Thank you. Chair will recognize Mr. McIntyre.
I'll reserve my comments for the workshop.
Thank you. Chair will recognize Mr. Liss.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just had a question about the storm. Is there a stormwater maintenance agreement in place?
There will be,
There
yes.
will be.
Yep, yep. It'll be owned and maintained by the HOA, and the maintenance agreement with the town will be put in place as most other stormwater management facilities are.
In the proposed conservation easement area, what happens there? I mean,
Nothing.
nothing.
Yeah,
Nothing.
the goal of, or the, not the goal, but the reason for that is to deed restrict a portion of the land that cannot be developed on.
Right.
I'm not sure if even general maintenance of,
No, there's no maintenance.
there's no maintenance of it. It's forever the way it is currently.
Okay,
So,
all right. Thank you. That's all I
Yep.
have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Liss. I saw somebody come in just a moment ago. That person have any comments they'd like to come up and make at all? No? Heather, one more check online?
I was just going to say, I just had a raised hand. 1 second. Richard, I'm going to allow you to talk. Just have to unmute yourself and the floor is yours.
Unmute. Did
Great
that
call,
work?
Richard. Yep, thank you.
Okay, I live at 12 New Tudor, and one of our concerns all along has been, once these units have been built, is there any restriction on rental versus ownership? And once you answer that question, what will the market rate or proposed selling price range be? We do not want rental. We already have a problem with the adjoining lot. And so if you can answer that question, I would appreciate it.
I don't know if town code restricts rentals, or renting out a home or a duplex. I would assume it would be very similar to any other single family residential home if it was rented or not.
It is similar to any other single family residential home. There is a rental registry requirement. And there are limitations on the numbers of unrelated persons who can occupy a single family dwelling, but the town does not have the authority to tell a homeowner that they cannot rent the residence, the building, the single family residence to someone else. We can't tell any of the people here that, or any of the people who are going to be in this subdivision.
Well, that answers somewhat of my question. First, let's go back. So the intent here is to sell these units individually. Is that correct?
That is the intent, yes.
And what would the proposed market selling price be? The across the street there at the Greens, we're in the $400,000 range. Down the street at Green Point, we're in the $600,000 to $700,000 range. New Tudor already speaks for itself in terms of Jefferson Estates. You folks know the tax rate over there and the market rate of what these homes are going for. So what does the developer plan on marketing these homes price range to be?
So I can speak to the fact that they're about 1,500 to 2,000 square feet, plus or minus. With that size range in mind, I would assume, and I can't officially state this, but it would be over 300,000, probably not 700,000. So I would say in the $400,000 to $500,000 range, just from.
So you're going to have 4 duplexes in the 1,500 square foot range, give or take, in the $300,000 range for a duplex. Is that correct?
No, I said, I would say that they're going to be more than 300,000. I'm not the actual guy building them, so I can't really speak to the cost. I just can tell you from my experience of the cost of construction, that these are going to be more than $300,000. They're going to be custom homes. They're not going to be a cookie cutter duplex, if you will. The insides will be custom. The goal for the developer is to do a luxury townhouse
Okay,
duplex type building. So
okay,
not going to be a cookie cutter development, if that's what you're.
okay. That answers my question because the word duplex it has a lot of different meanings and we go back to the 50s and duplex was fine then, but duplex is not good now. So $300,000 plus, that's the developer's plan in terms of selling these 4 individual units.
Correct.
This is the way I understood your answer. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Richard. Heather, anyone else online?
Nothing at this time.
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience here? Here to say anything else? Okay, if there are no more comments regarding this application, then I therefore close the public hearing for this application. We will move into our second public hearing this evening. Will the secretary please take the roll?
Walter Liss,
Here.
Craig Eckert,
Here.
Rick Page.
Here.
Patricia Brill,
Here.
Stephen McIntyre,
Here.
Matthew Burkowski,
Here.
and James Grunert as chair.
Here, thank you. A public hearing is being held before the Henrietta Planning Board today, Tuesday, July 20th, 2021 at 7 p.m. in the main meeting room at 475 Calkins Road, Henrietta, New York, 14467, to hear all persons with regard to the following application. PB 328 Frontier Car Wash subdivision for preliminary subdivision approval of a proposed 2-lot subdivision on an existing 12.89 acre parcel located at 2199 East Henrietta Road in a commercial B1 zone district. This public hearing is being held so that you, the general public, can present your opinions to the Henrietta Planning Board regarding subdivision concerns specifically limited to trees, the lots themselves, open space, the infrastructure, utilities, sidewalks, and flood-prone areas. And who's here representing the applicant, please?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen of the board. My name is Ed Martin. I'm an engineer with Land Tech. I'm here tonight representing Paul White and his application to construct this car wash. You'll recall we last presented to you June 15th, I believe was the date informally. Since that time, we have gone to the Conservation Board and to the Town Board and received endorsement / approval from the Conservation Board and received the required special use permit for the operation. We have gone a couple of rounds of comments with town staff. I would say that the project as a whole has been very well received. You'll note that this does result in a net reduction in pervious surfaces. Some comments that came out of the last meeting with you. I don't recall who brought it up, but there was a light fixture that they wanted changed towards the East Henrietta roadside. We changed that fixture and all the other wall-mounted fixtures to full cutoff, and you'll note that detail on the detail sheet. The Conservation Board requested additional plantings along the mall, so we've added trees and a wider variety of shrubs, low-lying shrubs, and that was very well received. I should have mentioned that Mr. Paul White is in attendance with me tonight in the event that you have a question that's better answered by him. With that said, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ed. Are there any residents in the room that have any comments or questions this evening? Would like to come up and speak? Heather, anyone online?
I have nothing at this time.
Thank you. I will open it up and run down the board real quick. If we have any questions or comments at this point, I'll recognize Mr. Eckert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, regarding preliminary subdivision, I do not have any comments.
Thank you very much. Mr. Borkowski.
No comments, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Liss.
No comment, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Mr. McIntyre.
No comments at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Page.
No comments.
Mrs. Brill.
Nothing at this time. Thank you.
Any comments from town staff? At
I'm
this
all set,
point?
Mr.
No?
Chairman.
Good. Thank you. If there are no more comments regarding this application, I therefore close the public hearing, and we will now adjourn to our normal workshop session of the evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, let's see. Okay, we'll call to order our regular workshop meeting this evening. Members present are Craig Eckert, Matt Borkowski, Walter Liss, Steve McIntyre, Rick Page, Patricia Brill, town staff, Chris Martin, Director of Engineering and Planning, Chris Hauser, Deputy Director, Engineering and Planning, Dan Mastrella, Planning Board Attorney, and Heather Voss, Deputy Town Clerk. First item on the agenda will be the minutes from our June 15th meeting.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Mrs. Brill.
Second.
Mr. Page, thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. The opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The motion or the minutes are approved. Thank you. And next item on the agenda is application number PB 327, York subdivision for preliminary subdivision approval of a 4-lot residential subdivision for 2 duplex style townhomes on 1.87 acres of property located on Jefferson Road in an R120 zoned district. And Matt, I guess, is Matt still outside? Hi, Matt. We're just called your application forward. So I think we heard what you had to say the first time. Do you have anything you'd like to add for this actual workshop portion of the meeting? Okay, thank you. Okay, the chair will recognize Mr. Eckert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No, I don't have any other comments. And due to a relationship with a close proximity neighbor to the west, I'm going to have to, I believe, abstain from the vote. So
Okay,
I'm making that known that we've been through the review process and everything like that. I've been trying to help out the town as much as possible, but I don't think it's fair that I vote on this on their behalf. Is that
okay. Yeah, if I forget to remind me to, you're abstaining
Yeah.
when we get to the point. Yep,
Is that
thank
okay
you.
with you?
Thank you very much. Shall we recognize Mr. Borkowski?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
We talked about the stormwater agreement. That's gonna be a homeowners association thing, right?
Yes.
Okay. Site distances. How are we looking with those? I know they just have to be added, but I assume that we have them.
Yes,
And are they all in order?
yes,
Okay,
correct. Yep.
Did the New York DOT approve the private road entrance?
We haven't pushed too hard on DOT. We've submitted to them. We've gotten some preliminary comments back from them. But, we're kind of waiting to see what the town board, because we have to go through the town board process. This evening, we're meeting with you guys to find out what your thoughts are. So we didn't want to invest too much in case something were to get revised or changed.
Can you tell me what you think the holdup is with that,
The holdup with,
with the approval? I mean, you said that you're not pushing them too hard, but you've got to go. through town
we've
board.
submitted to them and we've received some comments back, minor comments that are very typical and very
Okay.
standard technical in nature. Our holdup on that is we still have to get approval from the town board to utilize the town law 278 for this particular project. So that's more of a site plan situation.
Okay. We already talked about the rental versus ownership. You're gonna have a drainage report for the project.
Yes.
Okay. And the 278, the whole idea behind this, and we had the neighbors here and you heard a couple of things, but the idea behind the 278 is to get the cluster and offset it with incentives to the neighbors or the neighborhood in itself. So it could be more green space, could be paths, it could be a better drainage that you can promise them. I know you mentioned basically a forever wild. That's one thing. Is there anything else that you can add in there to basically sell the 278 a little bit better?
Yeah, so the conservation easement is the one thing. The second thing is there's been some stormwater issues. So we're providing a stormwater pond. Typically in a parcel or project this size, the residential, the threshold is 5 acres for residential development. So we're providing a stormwater management facility to help mitigate some of the stormwater from not only our project, but anything that's coming off the higher ground. And then the other thing we're trying to do is provide some landscaping. As Chris had mentioned, we'll infill when we see what we've got to work with. So those are the incentives that we're able to provide. We don't have a lot of space. as I mentioned before, the conservation easement is, a significant portion of the property. So
You said it was 0.7 acres?
0.7 acres on one of the 1.87 acres. So it's a pretty significant area. So the goal is to try to capture all that to allow us to move forward with this in lieu of the single family
Okay.
homes.
Well, those are the things I want to have on record because I know that throughout this process, drainage was brought up.
Yep.
Shading from adjacent neighborhoods is brought up. So you covered those. I just wanted
Yep.
on record. So I'm all good, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Borkowski. Chair will recognize Mr. Liss.
Thank you, Mr.
You're
Chairman.
welcome.
Your concern, my concern was with the stormwater management, which you addressed during the public hearing in the conservation area. But I'm just wondering, do you think we'll see some conceptual drawings of what the townhouses will actually look like? and
Yeah, I
colors, et
think
cetera?
when we make application for final approval, we can provide something a little bit more progressed at that point. Again, we really need, for us as the developer, representing the developer, we want to make sure that the town board is on board
Mhm.
with the town law 278 procedure before we really dive into stuff like that. But I think when we come back for the final approval, we'll have our part of our application will be some elevations.
Thank you. I
Yep.
appreciate this project is so much
Better.
certainly more acceptable than the previous.
It's
I
good.
really like it, Yeah, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Liss. Mr. McIntyre,
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
welcome.
A little more on drainage. I noticed that Chris' comments indicated that a drainage report needs to be prepared.
Yes.
How far along is that?
So again, once we get into the acceptance of this by the town board, because the concept itself needs to be approved by them before we get into final engineering of everything. So, we know from our experience that approximate the size of the pond that is shown is more than adequate to handle the stormwater runoff. But the actual technical calculations and the report will be provided to Chris once we see how the town board receives this particular project.
Well, could you kind of give me a little hint as to what you're planning? How's the water going to run off from the roof lines
Right.
into
so-
the backyard, and how are you going to get it to the stormwater
Yeah,
management?
so there is the parcel naturally drains from the northern portion to the southern portion, kind of the northern corner to the southern corner. And there's actually some catch basins in the backyards of the homes along New Tudor Road that pick up some of that drainage. So our goal is to capture what comes down and to throttle down the stormwater runoff rates. We can't change the volume because it's rainwater, comes from the sky, but we can change the rate at which the water comes off the site to help mitigate any downstream, I wouldn't say flooding, because I don't know that flooding is an issue, but any downstream concerns of stormwater runoff. So I kind of always explain it as if you were to take a bucket, the current situation, you take a bucket and you tip the bucket over, water goes everywhere.
Mhm.
If you take a bucket and you drill a small hole in the bottom of it, it's a controlled outlet and it comes out at a much slower rate. So that is how the stormwater management facility will be designed.
Okay, that's all well and good. So how are you going to tie in your gutter downspouts in the rear? Will they just be?
They'll be piped to the
they'll be
stormwater.
piped to the stormwater?
Yep.
So you'll have some sort of a
Stormwater.
piping that goes
Yep.
along the backyard.
Correct.
Will
Yep.
there be any kind of a swale for surface water?
The goal is to try to get the grading so that there's no major swales because we're trying to maximize the amount of foliage that's still there. So we will try to get it without doing any major swales, but we'll have some small yard inlets that capture some of the stormwater runoff that take it to the stormwater management facility.
Okay, all right. And as far as the private roadway, the runoff from that will be
Directed right towards the
directed
stormwater.
right towards the front of
Correct.
the storm.
Stormwater
Okay, I'll be
management.
looking forward to seeing your
Sure.
drainage report and the layout of the system, because that is probably critical to this
Sure.
project being approved.
Yep.
I don't want to go forward without it. When you did your site easement, your site calculations, did you calculate it based on the current speed limit for that road, or did you calculate it with the way traffic flows back and forth there as far as the speeds? Because they always drive a lot faster on that road than what the speed
Right.
limit is.
So typically the site distance calculations are based on the current speed limit of the roadway. Whether or not they're they're speeding or not is more of an enforcement issue rather than, it's kind of an out of our controls type of a situation. So we typically calculate the site distance based on the state, and it's a state road, based on the speed limit, the posted speed limit.
Okay, no further questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. McIntyre. Chair will recognize Mr. Page.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Matt, I want to congratulate you and thank you for being so attentive to all the concerns that the community had and all the adjustments you made based on our comments and the comments of the neighbors. Again, as Matt and my other teammates, drainage is the major thing. I also noticed that I have two things that haven't been mentioned. Chris mentioned additional erosion control will be required per the previous marked up diagram. Chris, can you tell me what you had in mind as far as erosion? Was that during the construction process or?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so during construction, obviously, the silt fence location, the stabilized construction entrance.
Okay.
Is there going to be a sedimentation basin, things of that nature?
I understand. Okay, thank you. That was, I want to make sure. Also, at number 8 under the general, there's, number 7, all existing and proposed easements should be indicated on the map. I wanted to give you this piece of paper that we received tonight. I've never seen it before, and I just wanted you to be aware of it, but it asks for individual easements for ingress and egress for each duplex.
Yes, so that's pretty typical. There's one access drive and there'll be an easement that goes over for each duplex that allows them to get to their home, essentially.
Okay, I assume that. I just
Yep.
wanted to make sure. Okay. Other than that, I'm all set. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Page. Chair will recognize Mrs. Brill.
Thank you. And you mentioned coming back with conceptual drawings when you come back for final approval. At that point, we'll see more landscape detail.
Yeah, so what we'll do is we'll submit a final approval application to Chris, which you guys will receive prior to the meeting to review. That'll include our final landscaping plan, which has been reviewed by the Conservation Board. And as far as I'm aware or know, there hasn't been any major concerns with what we're proposing. One of the things that's kind of up in the air is more or less infilling some of the tree areas that we may investigate once we're out there. So that's when that'll happen.
Separate reading.
Yes, I was surprised on the existing landscape plan. I really didn't see too much detail. I'm trying to blow this up and get the hang of our new
Yeah,
little tablets here.
The previous landscaping plan that we had, which was really not much or anything at all, was really just kind of maintaining the existing tree line. But what we've recently submitted to the Conservation Board and attended their Conservation Board meeting, we've beefed it up pretty significantly with the option to go even further when we have to.
Yeah, and I was curious on the easement. There's a section there that is outlined as round stone planter with bushes and small trees.
Yes, that's kind of open to where we place them with the openings within the trees.
Okay.
Yep.
So the plant schedule we have here, which consists of 2 different varieties of spruce, emerald arborvitae, and red bud. That
Correct.
has been enhanced upon, or is that?
That is, I don't know which one you're looking at. I just want to make sure I'm looking, can I?
No, that's okay. Just those 4 plants.
believe so, yeah.
Okay, that
Yep.
is, thank you. Just wanted to make sure. And let me just check my notes. I know some of my fellow board members have commented on my notes. Drainage was one of them for sure. Lighting, one of the residents commented on lighting. And I'm sure we'll see more when we come back and see more detailed plans, but lighting is going to be certainly a concern. So I'll be curious to see more detail about that. That's all I have for now. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Mrs. Brill. Anything from town staff? At this point.
Also, Mr. Chairman, though, it looks like we're gonna get a vote and seeker.
Seeker, thank you. Yeah, before I read the seeker, I just want to say, Matt, I appreciate your working with the residents and listening to them and all the work that went in with town staff to get this project where it is. I think it's a much better project for the community than the first one that we saw. So thank you, everybody, for their efforts on getting us to this point.
I appreciate that. I really appreciate the board's attention to detail. It's not that often that you walk in and you get drilled, which I enjoy, but I don't enjoy. But I do appreciate the attention to detail. And it really makes it seem like, or shows that you are looking out for the residents. So I really appreciate that.
Thank
You,
you.
ma'am.
Okay, well, seeker review indicates the action under consideration is an unlisted action as per section 617.7 C1 VIII. The Henrietta Planning Board, as lead agency, has determined that the proposed action described below will not have a significant effect on the environment and that a draft environmental impact statement will not be required. The action under consideration is a subdivision application by York Properties. It is an unlisted action and will not require a conditioned negative declaration. The purpose of this application is for preliminary subdivision approval of a 4-lot subdivision of the 1.87 acres located on Jefferson Road in an R120 zone district. All relevant areas of environmental concern were identified. Evaluation and examination were carefully made in relation of the existing conditions versus the proposed subdivision. It has been determined that there will be no adverse environmental effect as a result of the proposed action. I, James Grunert, therefore make the motion that we make a negative declaration and that the chairman be authorized to sign the statement of environmental significance. Do I have a sufficient second, please?
Second.
Mr. McIntyre? Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. And Mr. Eckert, you wish to abstain?
Yes, I would like to abstain.
Okay. 6-0. Thank you very much. In the opinion of the chair, as the ayes have it, we have a seeker. The chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, real quick question.
Yes,
Mr. Mistrell, this being preliminary, do we have to do any conditional approvals? Can that wait till-
Yes, in this instance, because it's a town law section 278 application, although the statute may take care of this, it should be conditioned upon the town board accepting the land that's being dedicated to the conservation easement as appropriate.
And the DOT approval?
You don't have to condition it on DOT approval. That's
Out of our hands.
they either get that or don't.
Based on that, condition for the town board accepting the land for conservation approval. I place a motion for approval.
Thank you, Mrs. Bro. We have a sufficient second, please.
Second.
Mr. List?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Very good. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. And Mr. Eckert, abstention. Thank you. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The motion is carried. Congratulations. Thank you, Mr. Borkowski. Chair just wants to recognize the attendance of Councilperson Barley and Councilperson Safranek. Thank you for coming tonight. Certainly.
Step up to the microphone, state your name and address, please, for the record.
And how many years you have left on your sentence?
Rob Barley in the town board. About that easement for the town accepting, that's not saying that the town is going to accept this land as ownership for the easement, right?
Correct. It's not.
Okay.
It's just under the statute.
Right.
Before the planning board can give an approval, and it doesn't say preliminary or final, it says before the planning board can approve it,
Mhm.
the town board has to approve the open space or whatever it's going to
Right.
be.
The cluster itself.
And so that's all that is. It's the town board saying, yeah, what you intend to do is acceptable to the town board.
All right.
That's all it is. It's
Okay.
not us taking.
Thanks. I know the town has no desire to own that land as conservation, so I just wanted to make sure. Thanks.
So how should I
Thank
word
you.
that, Dan? Must approve the open space or the conservation easement? Or how should I word that?
That they have to approve the lands available for park, recreation, open space, or other municipal purposes per section 295-60B of the Henrietta Town Code.
Give you that section.
Please do so. You lost me at recreation, so I got a note there to ask you, so thank you.
That's Mrs. Brill?
Yes, thank
Good,
you so
thank you.
much.
Okay, thank you. Next application on the agenda this evening is PB 328 Frontier Car Wash Subdivision for preliminary subdivision approval of a proposed two-lot subdivision on an existing 12.89 acre parcel located at 2199 East Henrietta Road in a commercial B1 zone district. Ed, welcome back.
Thank you. You wish me to do a presentation or?
Well, you kind of went through it before. I'm okay to starting with the board, if you're okay with that.
Absolutely. I have nothing to add.
Thank you. Okay, we'll start. The chair will recognize Mr. Liss.
Thank you, Mr.
You're
Chairman.
welcome.
One of the concerns I had is based on what I observed at other car washes, at the exit point apron and leading out, what provisions are going to be made to manage that breakdown over time of that surface? At Jefferson Road, the Royal Car Wash, there's always a breakdown over time.
So a malfunction of the car wash itself, you mean? Is that what you mean?
No, just over time with cars leaving and the temperature changes. And
Oh, I see what you're saying.
The
So like
breakdown of the pavement.
Pavement, okay,
Yeah.
that's a great
Is
question.
that
You'll-
included in the maintenance of?
Well, so it's included both in the maintenance and in the design itself. You'll note both at the entry and the exit, we call for concrete. So it's got a much,
I saw that.
yeah, it lasts much longer, which that is also going to be heated, as I understand, correct? So we won't have an icing issue. And the benefit to this applicant is that he owns the overall plaza. So it's in his own interest to keep this well maintained. So the plaza itself is under an overall maintenance plan. And I understand the town got involved a little bit with that, with the road going to the south, which has been repaired and brought up to standard. So both in the design and in the operation of it, they have built-in maintenance, much like they have for the parking lot overall.
Mhm. And as let's say I'm exiting the car wash, I see on the drawing, you can go either way. Are you going to kind of like make a right turn only out of this when I leave the car wash?
It wasn't our plan, I think, and
Because I can see where there might be some traffic issues in there.
yeah, I think Mr. White could probably speak better to this, but it's my impression of how this whole thing's going to operate, that vehicles will come out at a very controlled rate. And that I don't foresee a lot of traffic in the north-south bound lane, because anybody wanting to use the DMV to the north is likely going to come in the main entrance up there. And that there's a parking lot that's reserved there for them, as well as the parking lot to the west. So I don't see a lot of cross traffic. And vehicles are coming out at a very controlled rate. I mean, they're literally creeping along at that point, and it would operate just like any other intersection within the parking lot. So I don't foresee any significant conflict points.
Right. But what do you anticipate, like time needed from demolition to completion? Do you have kind of a rough idea?
I think you want to speak to that?
Thank you. Yeah, our plan is to try to have it constructed by the end of this year and to be operational by January of 2022. We're still working on supply chain issues and materials and schedules. So that may get delayed into the second quarter of 2022, but that would be the longest.
Okay.
Gentleman, may I interrupt
Again,
again?
Paul
I'm
White.
sorry. Yep. Can I get your name, please?
Sorry, Paul White with Frontier
Paul
Management.
White, thank you. And Ed, your last name again?
Martin.
Martin, thank you.
I did leave a card up there.
Okay, Chris's brother.
Cousin.
Cousin.
Much better looking, brother.
Okay, I'm just gonna jump in here. So this is preliminary subdivision approval. So did you folks see Chris's comments on the subdivision piece of it?
I believe so, but
Yeah.
I'm just one of several members of the team. So if there's a specific concern, then
Yeah, he mentioned the appropriate access, utilities, drainage easements will need to be granted from one parcel to the other. Cross-access parking easements may also be required. He talked about all the access and utility easements should be prepared and filed at the same time as the plat map. And then the lot, excuse me, lot numbering will have to be approved by Monroe County Survey and Real Property Division. So those were his three comments regarding the subdivision. Any questions or comments on those at all?
None, and I apologize. I have seen these and we have no concern with that. We'll address every single one of them.
Fair enough.
Yep.
Okay.
I have no other concerns, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. List.
Pleased with this project.
Chair will recognize Mr. McIntyre.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Wanted to ask you, there was some literature on the vacuum units that you're gonna have there as far as the noise levels and stuff. What about the blowers that dry the cars off when they come out through the car wash?
The blowers are the higher decibel rated piece of equipment. And so the blowers are probably going to be approximately 10 to 12 feet inside of the building and facing into the building as the cars exit. So approximately 20 feet from the exit of the car wash, the decibel rating on those blowers will be down to a normal traffic volume.
Okay,
And we're
so-
set approximately 100 feet from the road.
So at the exit, you're not gonna see any appreciable, it's not like a megaphone that's gonna shoot the sound
Correct.
right out into the street. Did you meet with any of the people that live across the street, any of the businesses that are there?
No, we did not.
You did not? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome, Mr. McIntyre. Chair will recognize Mr. Page.
No, under the subdivision part of this, I have no comments. I'm all set.
Thank you, Mr. Page. Chair will recognize Mrs. Brill.
Thank you. I will just look forward to seeing some more detailed color renderings, a little bit more detail about how we plan on enhancing the landscaping and the visual aesthetics as far as what we're seeing.
So we have submitted those. I don't know if the plans didn't get distributed, but we have a sheet dedicated to landscaping and lighting that shows the plantings. And they have been updated since the Conservation Board. And we did supply the board prior to our last meeting with material specs and samples.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. My apologies. I do recall that. Thank you.
I believe we also have a rendering on the.
We do.
I'm all set. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Brill. Chair will recognize Mr. Eckert for any comments on the subdivision.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do not have any comments and make the note that the applicant has again worked with the town pretty readily to address the orientation. A couple different back and forth with how the traffic works for this and how they orient it in the parking lot. I think we've come up with a great solution that works for everyone. So I do, the subdivision itself works and all my comments have been addressed. The only other one, which again, we'll probably go to later, is the architectural element that I had. I just thought this building looked tall, as close to the road as it did. I know that's for a site plan, but since the architecturals have been submitted, and it was one of the comments I made before, I know it's not lighted. It's not like a lighted tower. Can we go, Heather, can you go back to that architectural, please? Once I thought that the towers were going to be what looked like glass were going to be lit, but apparently it's a gray panel. So I was trying to make sure that that wasn't going
Asked
to
that
be
the
a
last time.
lighted tower to that degree, similar to what Patrick Pontiac.
Yes.
You're familiar with that kind of concept that we had from an illumination standpoint. I think it'll be a little proud, but it's well within the code, from what I understand.
And you're comfortable with it being unlighted?
Yes, no, I would rather it be unlighted
Yeah,
than lit.
okay.
I think
Well, let's make sure the lights are a little dimmer than Patrick County.
Yeah, this is not a lit tower. It's a gray panel that's there. It looks like it's glass and first.
It's
first
actually
glance-
ephes.
Ephes,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay. So it didn't have the ability to be lit from inside out. So that was a comment that I had that appeared to be addressed. So I just wanted to make that comment as well. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Eckert. And the chair will recognize Mr. Borkowski. Any comments on the subdivision?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Nothing much. I actually think this is a good usage for the space. So that's all I've got. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Anything of town staff?
Just for the subdivision, seeker.
Mhm.
And then if the board desires, instead of doing preliminary subdivision approval, they can go right to final.
Okay,
We've done it in the past.
great. Thank you. Okay, seeker review indicates the action under consideration is an unlisted action as per section 617.7 C1 VIII. The Henrietta Planning Board, as lead agency, has determined that the proposed action described below will not have a significant effect on the environment and that a draft environmental impact statement will not be required. The action under consideration is a subdivision application by Frontier Center LLC. It is an unlisted action and will not require a conditioned negative declaration. The purpose of this application is for preliminary subdivision approval of a proposed two-lot subdivision of the 12.89 acres located at 2199 East Henrietta Road in a commercial B1 zoned district. All relevant areas of environmental concern were identified. Evaluation and examination were carefully made in relation of the existing conditions versus the proposed subdivision improvements. It's been determined that there will be no adverse environmental effect as a result of the proposed action. I, James Gruner, therefore make the motion that we make a negative declaration and that the chairman be authorized to sign the statement of environmental significance. Do I have a sufficient second, please?
Second.
Mr. Eckert, thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. The opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The motion carries, or I'm sorry, seekers approved. Thank you.
So move right towards final.
Yeah,
approval,
we can move right into a final site plan approval.
Subdivision.
I'm sorry, subdivision approval.
We need to authorize a reduction in the rear setback from 60 to 51.5.
Good catch.
I was going to ask that too, yeah.
Yes, the planning board, because there's no loading or unloading at the back, so to speak, that the planning board can grant that reduction.
Do we do that under subdivision or the site?
I would probably do it under site, but
Yeah, that's where it's in our notes is under site.
so there will be another presentation after the subdivision.
So, okay. So we'll just move right into final subdivision approval. The chair will make the motion. You did?
Sorry, I'm talking out loud.
That's okay. So the chair will make a motion for final site subdivision approval for application PB 328.
I will second.
Mr. I know.
Did you do that the first?
I did. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The motion carries. Final subdivision approval.
And with a thunderous applause.
Okay, very good. So we'll move on to application number 21009, Frontier Car Wash for site plan approval of a proposed 4,800 square foot car wash on 1.099 acres located at 2199 East Henrietta Road in a commercial B1 zoned district. Let's see. Okay, we did that. So I don't know if, gentlemen, if there's anything else you want to add at this point?
Not at this time. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move through the board then. We'll start, Mrs. Brill, recognize you, please.
Everything has been addressed. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Chair will recognize Mr. Page.
Thank you. If it's appropriate, I'd like to make a motion to approve the a variance for the rear setback to 51.5 feet from 60 feet, please. And if under discussion, you can
Just chime in or,
yeah.
yep, okay. Well, let's go back to Mrs. Brill. How would you vote on that, Mrs. Brill?
Approved.
Aye, okay. Mr. Page, you're a yes?
Affirmative.
Yep, okay. Any other comments on the application, the site plan?
Want you to
Well, I think-
complete the vote.
I think he was just
I
looking for
thought-
a roll
I
call
thought-
vote on the easement
Okay.
reduction.
Just doing the vote first.
That's fine then,
Roll
yep.
Call everybody and
Okay, very good. Mr. McIntyre?
I approve.
Thank you. Mr. List?
Nothing here? Yeah.
No.
Oh, what am I? Oh, non easement? Yeah.
Yep, okay, Mr. Borkowski?
Approve.
Thank you. And Mr. Eckert?
Approve.
Okay, thank you. I was thinking we kind of vote as we got along as we used to do sometimes.
we
So
used to do
thanks,
that.
guys. Yep. No,
Easement.
very good. So
It was easy.
the setback is approved.
Thank you.
No, not really. I mean, as everybody makes comments, you just say, yeah, like me to the easement.
Okay, Mr. Page.
Okay,
you.
also, most of them are architectural, like the location of the handicap ramps. I'm sure you've seen all the comments. So one of the things that I was going to ask you about, what is the number of vehicles that you can stack on site prior to entering the car wash in your estimation?
So I'm gonna wander here. 3 entryways and correct. So
staying out of the traffic lane.
Can you grab one of the portable mics? Nothing can be heard online right now.
Right behind you.
Staying out of the north-south travel lane to the east, there looks like there's about 140 feet at most in the northernmost entry lane. So if you take an average of 100, that comfortably will fit 4. So I would say easily 12 cars.
Okay, thank you. Are there any proposed HVAC units, transformers, or emergency generators planned for this site?
Do you want to answer that?
Sure. The HVAC is really just Resnar heat inside of the unit. There will be some small heating units in the office, which is going to be rather small office, but it will be manned by employees for all of the hours that the car wash is open. We don't have any plans for backup generators or anything at this point.
Okay, are there any garbage enclosures or dumpster enclosures planned? Oh, that
Yes.
was shown, I believe.
Yeah, we have a dumpster enclosure planned. It's not on this plan, but it's right here. So you have that's the bailout lane in case somebody can't go into the car wash or there's an emergency vehicle that needs to get out of the stacking. And then just to the east of that is where we're going to have our dumpster enclosure. And we're going to lose, I think, 4 parking spaces for the dumpster enclosure, but it is to the south of the median. We put it to the south of the median to try to preserve as much parking near the Department of Motor Vehicles as we could.
Okay. And Chris, did we get a chart of the landscaping? I know that you had a comment that a mixture of landscaping should be provided.
Yeah, I think I had a landscaping table on mine. It wasn't a lot there. It shows up on the cover, on the
Oh,
first page.
On the site plan in the lower right, right underneath the landscape notes, there's a table showing 4 different types of plantings.
Okay.
The Conservation Board had a couple questions.
And the only reason I brought that up, Chris, is I didn't know, based on your comment, if you had a concern, that's all.
I'd like to see more, certainly that's a heavily traveled route along East Henrietta Road and, having grown up here, it's nice to see, the extra green space and such, but I think some landscaping, additional landscaping might be a little nice.
Thank you. And I know that he won't sign the Mylars until you're comfortable with that administratively, so I'm fine with that. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Page. Chair will recognize Mr. McIntyre.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
So I assume, Chris, you mean salt resistant landscaping up there because of all the salt that gets kicked up in that roadway?
Sure, something that's certainly salt tolerant, but even maybe something around the building per se that, might dress it up a little bit. I mean, it's a very good looking building. But it was nice to have some foundation plantings around it as well.
Okay. The other question I was going to ask, I think all of my other questions, how you going to handle snow storage? You got a designated area we're going to push all the stuff off to?
We haven't allocated one specific area. I think with their operation of the plaza overall, they probably have more experience and better insight not than I do. So we could certainly show that, but Paul, I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, snow storage has not been an issue in the past, and I don't anticipate it being one currently. This parking lot seldom has any cars in it at all, and usually the storage of the snow is over in here.
Yeah, I've seen it over there before. So the plaza owner is going to take care of the snow storage
Correct.
and plowing for you?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
There was a comment on here about handicap ramps. Do we need a handicap ramp? Is this for the employees of the?
I don't see a need for one.
Do we have a
So
cross
we
sidewalk?
well, we do have handicap parking up, to the north there. So I think they're probably referring to the transition across from the DMV. We have 2 handicap spaces there to make sure that they can transition to the sidewalk. So.
Hey, Chris, this was your comment.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, the sidewalks going from the new parking lot to the DMV. Was one, but I did think there should be one near the office.
just in case an office employee is handicapped?
Right. I mean, they have to be handicap accessible. I don't even wait for the parking space, but that's something that we could work, Ed and I could work on.
Sure.
Can you do it? Can do?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
All set, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. McIntyre. Chair will recognize Mr. Liss.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Welcome.
I just had a couple of car wash minutia questions. Is that going to be like a spray, a pre-wash spray area? You know, like you see in Delta Sonic, there's always a couple of guys spraying your car before you go in.
Generally, there is a pre-wash area. Our intention is to bring that inside the building.
Inside.
For a couple of reasons, most for the employees to get them out of the wind as they're doing the pre-wash in the winter months. But there will be pre-wash.
There will be pre-wash. And then at the sign, at the pay station, is there going to be signage, large signage, like at Royal, I noticed they have some large.
There will be arches and there will be menu boards, if you will. Yeah, there will be signage.
All right.
Oh, I got it.
And the hours, I think you covered this last meeting, but what are the hours of operation? for this car
Maximum hours would be 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. and then we would shorten those
7
based
days.
on weather and holidays. And
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's all I have.
You're
Thanks,
welcome,
guys.
Mr. Liss. Chair will recognize Mr. Borkowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Welcome.
My only concern was something that somebody already touched on, the enclosure. It seems like that's quite a bit off of, so you've got this nice looking building and it seems like this is kind of out there on its own. Don't you think architecturally it's going to stand out and look a little odd off by itself out there? How far is it from the building?
Oh, from the building to the west?
No, south. So
you're
you're
referring to the dumpster enclosure?
yes, yeah.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I think it'll actually be hidden pretty well. So it's. Can I borrow that? Just under 40 feet.
Okay. I think part of that is I'm misreading my plan here. I thought it said 80 feet on here. So I thought it's like literally on its own way out there. Okay. And is that something, so it's going to be well hidden? If it's not, can there be landscaping around it to hide it better?
We can, one of the challenges with that is getting a truck in and out and snow removal without destroying any of that. So if there's something you have in mind, we'd be happy to consider trying to add that, but.
Well, 40 feet, I guess it doesn't bother me as much. I just misread what I was looking at here. So that makes it a lot better. I literally thought it was this distant thing off on its own. It's not so much anymore. So just make sure, because it is still a distant, it's still a distant path. Make sure that that thing's hidden pretty well, because it's sitting on the side of a parking lot by itself. And that's a little odd, especially with such a good design for the main part. That's my only concern. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Borkowski. The chair will recognize Mr. Eckert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to piggyback on that, because what is the plan for the enclosure then? I don't see it on the drawings.
I don't know if I've been involved in that discussion. Paul, have you?
We're looking at a
considered
chain
that?
link, a CMU.
I don't think we have a specific plan. I would be interested to know what the town would like.
Stockade fence for the dumpster enclosure.
Board on board.
I think it was board on board.
Yes, we have a board on board detail on sheet 4 of 5.
So galvanized metal structure with the board on board.
Board on board, correct. Yep.
I don't know if that needs to be, if anybody else has any comment on that. I'm thinking it's a higher maintenance type of potential, but I'm sure we probably allowed it before. I don't.
We have, I mean, to be quite honest, I'm partial to the CMU blocks. They don't move when they get hit. Sometimes the board on boards warp, or they just don't hold up like like a CMU would. But again, I don't know how much is going to be used either. It's not like a business where you're throwing a lot of trash out either.
Yeah, we shouldn't be generating a lot of garbage. The cars aren't stopping. We do have the vacuums. So there is a chance that people will be disposing of a lot of garbage some garbage over there. So
So you're looking at a commercial dumpster or bins? At this
commercial dumpster.
commercial dumpster?
Remember, there's vacuum stations to the south of that median. And so we're going to be emptying the vacuums and taking the garbage from those vacuum areas and disposing of that in the dumpster as well.
So then I guess I just have a comment, I guess I'll put out back to the board. I don't have a problem with the board on board, if maybe it was bordered with either a curb or some landscaping that would help secure it or keep it safe from plowing and other cars. If it was CMU, then maybe freestanding, and then therefore even painted to match the building would blend a little bit more, but I understand the potential cost implications to that. So I don't know if there's any other comments on the board from that. Does anybody care to see one or the other?
I just want it as aesthetically pleasing as possible. So, I'll defer to you guys in materials. If you think CMU, I would recommend CMU, but I agree. It should match the building. And once again, it's offset a little bit where it's going to look on its own. So tying it into that building would be important. I understand not being able to necessarily do the landscaping because you could kill it pretty easily and then you defeat the purpose of the landscaping. But something's got to make that look nice and keep it safe from getting beat up too much.
Short on board can be attractive when it's first built, but over time, they wear, they warp, they bend. If they get hit by, it is in the middle of the parking lot, also the snowplow. I think in the long haul, some type of a brick would be more beneficial because who is to say that it will be repaired?
I think I can offer a solution here. Paul is offered to do the CMU. That's not a problem
Yeah,
at
I'd
all.
like to see it match the
Yeah,
building and
we'll
really
do the
tie in.
CMU colored to match the building.
Perfect.
Thank you.
I
Yeah,
think you'll be
there
happier
is
in the long
already
run.
curbing on two sides of that. From the bailout lane and then the median. We had originally thought about bringing it closer to the building, but we wanted to preserve that crosswalk and also preserve some of that green space on the south side of the building. So we thought that was the best combination of all those things, but making it CMU is very doable.
Thank you.
Then, thank you. I really appreciate that. And let me back up and say, the project looks great. I really appreciate the reduction in impervious. It's a wide open parking lot, so I think it'll be a much better implement than the wide open blank parking lot that you're trying to manage now. The reason for asking that, again, to be unfortunately a little bit blunt, is the maintenance on this site has been delinquent. It's been rough. We've had to go through the road. We've had a lot of complaints on the road access, which is why we stepped in a little bit. There's, a tendency for potholes to continue to stay open. So maintenance is, has been rough. So I would appreciate something that's less maintenance foregoing. So I guess that's the reason for that comment. But I generally look forward to seeing this being, a much better facade to this plaza and really making it stand out and hopefully putting in some more revenue to help with the maintenance costs.
That's what we're hoping for. Yeah.
Okay, so.
And
then
to
that-
help fill up our vacant space.
Right, yeah, you've got a parking lot that you can't do anything with.
Right.
So I appreciate that. So that's the extent of my comments, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Eckert. Yeah, I agree. I think this is a good project. It'll be a good use of that space. That parking lot is way too big, and this is going to do a lot to add to that area. Any final comments from town staff at all?
I'm all set, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. The chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll enter a motion to approve the site plan.
Thank you, Mr. Eckert.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. McIntyre.
And do we have to put in the notes that we did approve the setback there too?
Yeah, yep, thank you.
With the comments from.
The setback has been authorized as well.
Yep, motion to approve variance setback from 60 to 51.5 feet approved by all.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we have a motion by Mr. Eckert, a second by Mr. McIntyre. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and the motion carries. Congratulations, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Look forward to getting a car wash in January. I look forward to getting a car wash in January.
A few more lost for rather than my wife went Starbucks and now the
Okay, next application on our agenda is C 21-003. Rock River Apartments. It's a concept review of a student housing development consisting of 6 multifamily residential student housing buildings containing 202 units on 37.2 acres of property located along East River Road in a residential R115 zoned district with a mixed-use employment center overlay. Your name, sir, please.
Good evening, James Trasher, CHA Consulting. I'm here representing Aptitude Development in the proposed application that is in front of you. We have been through a
Pardon me,
process.
James, one moment. May I get spell your last name for us, please?
Trash with a ER on the end, TRASHER.
Trash. Okay, thank you.
Trash with a ER on the end. Trasher,
That's not what I heard. Thank
Yeah.
you for clarifying. Appreciate it.
no problem.
And I'm sorry, representing,
CHA Consulting. 16 West Main Street, Rochester, New York. So good evening, folks. We're here representing Aptitude Development, who is the developer of this proposed project. The project is located off of East River Road, north of Lehigh, south of Bailey. I'll take a portable microphone. So the proposal is to construct 2 driveways and 6 buildings with 202 dwelling units off of River Road. We've gone through the special permit process with the town board. Traffic studies, wetland delineations, preliminary survey has been completed, working through process of more formal design, stormwater, landscape. But we wanted to start the process with the planning board to get initial feedback and comments on our proposal. We have also provided some concepts of the 3-level buildings that Laura Manguso, who is our architect, and at the future meetings will be here to present as well. So we have received preliminary comments from the fire marshal, from Chris's office as well. So I'll just start on the traffic side of the aisle. We initially did a traffic study. Our access points have moved several times, mainly because we are on a slope on River Road. The crest of the hill is approximately in the location of the property line between an existing residential house, which wasn't initially part of our project, but we incorporated. Cemetery is located just to the north. So we've fluctuated curb cut locations, questions about curb cuts going on to an adjacent project to the south, trying to line up with Fairwood, but based on traffic study reviews by the county DOT and the town engineer, these access points were determined, and we are going to work through the process with the DOT on the necessary curb cuts. There'll be turn lanes that need to be incorporated as part of the project, and they are shown on the concept as well. Once into the site, we have, as part of the overlay district, we have the residential component, the open space, and then in the future, we will have the industrial component in the back. Along River Road, we show the proposed sidewalk that would be part of the town project. So they've asked us to accommodate that as well. We have a path of sidewalks that go from tennis courts to basketball courts to our clubhouse and to other things that are located within the overall development. As I said, stormwater reports will be completed and submitted for engineering review. Landscape and lighting plans will be submitted. Trash is a big component to this. Based on hearing the last conversations, we will address those as well. Snow storage and where things would be placed in the winter. There is good slope across the site. Our stormwater area is proposed on the southern center section. As I previously said, we've done the delineation, jurisdictional determination has been completed, and actually and haven't updated the concept. There's an isolated wetland just to the side of our proposed stormwater facility that does not need to remain anymore. So just looking for initial comments, feedback from you all, and look forward to working with you through the process.
Thank you for coming in this evening. Open it up to the board, and I'll start with Mr. Eckert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
Internally, we've seen a couple different, I think, concept drawings of this. Have we seen it with 6 buildings before?
Yeah, this is the actual plan that was submitted for the special use permit. So the layout that is shown here, we didn't adjust based on our meetings. This is how we move forward to have the initial conversation just because of the size of the application.
Okay, I guess I remember it being less buildings. I don't recall the 6.
I mean, a lot of this depends on the number of units as well, so, but we could certainly look back on previous plans, but I think James is correct. I think that was the number of units, and that was what was approved in the special use permit.
It was.
Yeah, so.
That's what we have to go with regardless.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're 202 dwelling units over the 6 buildings. We met prior to this meeting this evening with the historic group. This house that's as part of the project that you emphasized, that's one of the comments that came up when we went through the process. It wasn't known to us or, members of the town board or the planning staff that this property here is part of the town of Henrietta Historic District. We met, so we will be looking at relocating this access drive so we don't encumber the house. And initially our plan was to doze it and it wouldn't be there anymore. So we will work around this house, change, the curb cut location will be in the same location, but it will avoid the house potentially going into the site at a straighter alignment and relocation of building number 2. So our overall lot coverage in terms of apartments to open to industrial will remain the same. We would just look at repositioning building number 2.
What's the potential relocation for that building at the moment? All the way in the back?
Yeah.
Okay. So that only leaves one building up front?
Correct.
Okay.
And the house that we would update as part of this project.
Good. And what's the setback on that, then the existing building up front to the right of way?
It's right here. The setback line is 80 feet. We're, I believe, at 83 feet to the building.
Okay. And then the industrial road that intends to be built when the industrial project is developed?
So as part of the project, we will construct both of the driveways because of emergency ingress and egress. We will construct everything to the back portion of the site with stubs off for the access loop to the industrial.
Okay.
Based on comments, we've gone through the comments. There's comments about cross access and all those things will accommodate with easements and stormwater maintenance agreements and other things that Mr. Martin has brought up in his comments.
It was one of those comments, again, the cross traffic between the industrial and the residential. But the one road was going to be primarily industrial and the second one was, but
They
that's,
can both be utilized. Obviously, the truck traffic has to come in at the southern entrance. I'm sorry, they can come in at either.
They can come in at either.
But they just can't leave at the southern entrance.
Correct. This is egress for the entire, just because of sight distances, it gives better sight distances. And so for trucks, everything's would be exiting at this point. Residential could use either.
okay, so that was the reason for pulling off again, then the road from the parking lot so that you didn't get the cross traffic through there.
Correct. That was one of the comments when we went through the special permit process was to keep the parking so people weren't backing out into drive lanes. So this is why we have drive aisle and parking areas, with islands.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chairman, that's the comments I have preliminarily to this concept. I know that there's a lot of issues out there regarding this still, so we'll see it as it develops.
Thank you, Mr. Eckert.
Thank you, sir.
Chair will recognize Mrs. Brill.
Thank you. On the drawing I'm looking at, forgive me, I'm not seeing that home. Can you point out where that is?
It's like right underneath the red, right here. So you can see like the patio. So just with the aerial overlay. So it's really dead center of the site. The access point based on survey we just received, the high point falls approximately 20 feet further to the south. So this access drive would push. So one of the big things is having it at the crest of the hill for sight distances for people coming up the hill and down. So that was part of the traffic study. So based on final survey, this will be pushing to the south approximately 20 feet.
Okay, it's a different house than I was thinking of.
The one with the, it's got the teepee in the back.
Yeah, the teepee in the back.
Oh, fair
Yeah.
enough.
The
Thank
Indian
you.
teepee in the back.
There you go. Gotcha. Thank you for clarifying that. Yep. Okay. It's gonna take some getting used to using that. I'll tell you. This final, I mean.
This is a concept. If you want to give us final approval, we love it. It'd be the greatest thing ever.
So many questions about the lighting and.
I make a motion.
Denied.
Yeah, I don't think you want to go there right now.
Yeah, this is just so many massive. I'd be most curious to really hone in and look at the type of lighting that's going to be proposed for the area. And of course, the landscaping, they look like beautiful buildings, so I have no doubt that they're going to be exceptional landscape plans. But that would be what I would love to be seeing, especially near the entrances or roadsides.
No problem.
That's all I have at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Bro. Chair will recognize Mr. Page.
Thank you. When I first came in, when I first reviewed the plans, I was 100% with the fire marshal about moving the big traffic, the 50-foot, 3-foot trailers to the south. But then I got a message from the supervisor, a discussion that the DOT just put a nix on it, said, no, it has to stay on the north. And so the discussion's over with. And the house is going to remain?
Correct.
Okay. Also, one of the things that, and there's a lot of them here, but one of the things I'll pick out, I'll save the rest for my teammates, was there was some concern from the fire marshal about the distance between the dwellings from 32 feet that needs to be 40.
And we'll move those. We have the space within here that we can adjust.
Okay. And I also liked the comment about land banking some of the parking spots until, of course, they're needed.
100. We actually have currently shown we have more parking than is required per code. So we will look at, trimming that down to what is required and then land banking anything that we don't need. It's a good cost savings for us and it's good for the environment as well if we don't need it. Especially on shared trips, Lyft, Uber, those type of things where, less people are using cars and, using shared transportation.
And just if I might add, we have been finding with some of our other student housing projects that the parking is less than what we're typically require for a multifamily.
Correct.
So you might want to look at some of the other adjacent areas around there to see what the parking ratio is for that.
No, and the development team that we do work for, we've done projects across the country with them and, we will balance that based on what they're seeing in projects that they have elsewhere.
Okay. And then the last comment, and I'll turn it over to my friends. Chris, you mentioned that it was in an agricultural district. So help me out. What does that mean for the applicant?
Okay, so as part of that process, we'll have to send out mailings to the adjacent areas. Of course, a lot of that's already been developed. The only really active farmland or area that could be farmed is to the north, which is the Wallen piece.
Right.
It's just a process that we have to go through, Rick,
Okay.
to notify the landowners
Okay.
that there is something going on there.
Okay, thank you. I'm all set. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Page.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, Mrs. Bro.
Chris, did somebody come before us for the same parcel a few years back?
Yes.
To the north. Well,
Slightly to the north, backing up to
yeah,
like.
so the Wallman piece is.
I would say the
actually
Wallman piece.
Campus Crest.
Yeah.
Yep. And there's a couple other ones. In fact, I think Campus Crest actually got approved, but
Had financial problems.
that's correct.
Yep.
So
75
the
acres.
Wallman piece, we've talked about for a long time, or the Larkin piece rather, we've talked about, but this is the first application that this board is seeing for this project or for this area.
Yeah, I've done stuff on this piece to the north, so this is,
This does not butt up to, I recall, individuals from North Forest coming and representing or something. Okay.
That was
So
the,
this is-
the piece to the north, which we call the Walman piece.
Thank you, thank you. All set, thank you.
All set. Okay. The chair will recognize Mr. McIntyre.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
I think some of my concerns have been addressed, so I'll move on to the gruesome stuff. What's the plan for the buffer between the cemetery and the property that you're gonna be developing? Because some of those residents may not want to be disturbed.
so we don't want to disturb, and we hope everyone was buried appropriately on the property, because I've been involved with other projects where old cemeteries, sometimes they, you know, Mr. Smith was supposed to be buried here and they put him 50 feet over. So we hope that doesn't occur. So in this area, we would look at doing landscaping. It's part of, our open space area. And then we have to work along with the town as it relates to the sidewalk that they want along this corridor. So it will be coming along river, then it takes a turn to the east, and it will parallel for Fright Night along the backside of the cemetery and to the Walman piece to the north. So in our landscape plan that we come, we'll have some buffering of this, just because, we want to preserve and protect that as well.
Have you done the archaeological survey? on
Work
this
is
one?
ongoing right now. They started last week due to the great rain that we had. They didn't get much of it done, so we're doing a phase 1A and B archaeology on the entire site. So that's in the process right now.
Have you been through the Army Corps of Engineers yet for that wetland permit to build your road through?
So we got the jurisdictional determination based on conversations we have here. We have the one crossing, which is less than 1/10 of an acre of impact. So that should be rather straightforward with the Army Corps.
Are they looking for a mitigation, or are they just?
Not
gonna
under a
straight-
10th. Sure. We actually may even look at, based on the width of that, as spanning it and with a bottomless box culvert. So we eliminate the potential need for a permit altogether. So that's something that we're working with contractor, developer to figure out the best path and most economical way to complete.
And how are you gonna keep trucks from exiting that one driveway?
There'll be signage and then also operation. This is a 37,000 square foot facility. Who's ever going to be operating this will be letting their drivers know when they're leaving. So coming in, they can use either means when they're leaving. The manager of this will be, access has to be at this point. So.
Just hope they follow the signs and the manager's instructions.
Correct.
Okay. All set, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. McIntyre. The chair will recognize Mr. Liss.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
My biggest concern was the comment from the fire marshal, and you're addressing it here. I was up that way today, and it just really is congested, and when you come down that hill, it's a tight squeeze.
Right.
I don't know if I wouldn't want to be making a left-hand turn. Right would be safe, but as long as that's a big concern of mine. And I noticed you did have a couple of public hearings prior to
Correct.
this. And I don't know if there were a lot of negative comments that came forward at that time?
No.
And there was a letter that was written by a neighbor from Rivers Run recently.
Yep.
Yeah, expressing whether do we really need more student housing? And I wasn't a part of the public hearing, but did you conduct a market study?
So the developers
At
we
this
work
time?
for, they're equity based. They're not going to come into a market and, spend the type of money that they're
Right.
doing without market research. And they've looked at occupancies at other adjoining and what's going on. So they're comfortable moving forward with this project.
Okay. And this is a question for you, Chris. I think just for my own education, what's included in the term an administrative subdivision will be required for this project? What's the definition of that? It's in number 8 under your general notes. An administrative,
I think it's going to depend on what certainly happens with the historic site there, the historic building, but
It's just-
typically what administrative subdivision is, if it's 2 lots or less, like you're moving a lot line, or if you're combining two lots in one, which might be in this case, we can go through an administrative process where it doesn't go through this board. Now, the example, like the last one that we saw with the Frontier, we thought since that was on East Henrietta Road, it was more prevalent, that we would bring that before the board. But sometimes for like the real simple ones, that there's not a lot of, public hearing is really needed, we'll do an administrative subdivision.
Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. List.
Thank you.
Chair will recognize Mr. Borkowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
There's a lot here, and I'm not going to belabor these things on concept. I just want to put out there that we do have some concern from the residents, and it's good concern. There's been a lot of growth. There's been a lot of traffic increases there. What are we looking at with traffic here? I mean, that actually scares me a little bit. I know that we actually already had something that came through here and we did approve it. I don't know if it was as much as this though. So between those roads that are hitting East River Road and East River Road, traffic has gotten to be a major concern over there.
Yeah.
How are we going to mitigate that?
So as part of this, we did traffic study number 1, then we did traffic study number 2 as part of special permit process. So as part of the requirements through the review with Monroe County DOT and the town engineer who had their outside traffic engineer review it as well. Driveway locations based on site distances and then turn lanes that would need to be installed. So that was part of the process before, we got special permit with the town supervisor and the town board. Chris may have more insight as well.
Yeah, and I'd like to add a few comments too. Obviously, this has gone through a very thorough traffic study, not only by the town staff and our town consultant, but from Monroe County DOT. Also, this project is located along the East River Road corridor. As part of this process, the developer has to pay what's called seeker mitigation fees, which is $800 per trip during the peak hours, which would be the morning and the afternoon. The county is going to take that money, it goes through the town, then to the county, and use those to make improvements along East River Road. And I will say that the county right now has hired a consultant to start those design plans to make those improvements. I want to say it's under design for this year and next, so we may see construction sometime in 2024, plus or minus. So there are improvements that are going to be made to East River Road, but we have seen a lot of development there. I'm concerned. I looked in the last 6 years.
That's exactly what I like to hear. Thank you, Chris. What about sidewalks? I know that we're working on putting more sidewalks. Oh, yeah, exactly.
Sidewalks here, and then we have a whole integral sidewalk system, so people from buildings to clubhouse to facilities can walk. So, and then we want to get back to the, public.
Are you going to extend it any further from your own land here, or is it staying there?
We're extending within our own property, and then the neighbors to the south are extending. So our connection point was based on conversation with the town, and then to the north, they told us where we needed to go, and we've shown it.
Okay, excellent. So we're improving it.
As part of the town project, which we've got a grant for, we're trying to get sidewalks all the way from Lehigh Station Road up to RIT. It's actually a little more than a sidewalk. It's a multimodal trail.
Right.
It's 17 feet wide, Chris. 8 feet wide asphalt, so they can be used not only by walkers, runners, but also by cyclists as well. So they'll go all the way, again, with the other development that came into the south, they're committed to doing the trail from Lehigh Station Road up to this property. And then this property, it'll go all the way up to, like I said, Arnold.
Perfect.
And RIT will run their sidewalks out.
And I know that's been our vision, but I just want to make sure, once again, we have it on the record that the applicant is on board with it. So that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Borkowski. Great, James. I've just got one question. Full build out, how many residents do you anticipate living here?
So right now, architect is actually going through the studios, 1s, 2s, 4s within this. So what we previously had, and so I don't want to commit to numbers, but in our application, it's been reduced from what we had in our special permit, so that will be refined, so I don't want to give exact numbers tonight, because then I could put my foot in my mouth.
Okay.
So
Ballpark, I mean, do we have a?
500 plus or minus.
Okay.
Okay. And are they designed like the lodge across the street, right? They had, I think some of those residences, you had like 4 people living there, but they had like 4 separate rooms and
Yeah,
things
it's
like that.
bed
Is it gonna
bath
be-
parity, as we like to call it, so, bedroom to bathroom, especially based on COVID, and making sure that if there was ever a pandemic like that again, that people can be isolated and use that. So it's real 1 bedroom, 1 bath, 2 bedroom, 2 baths, 4 bedrooms, 4 baths versus a 2 bedroom with 1 bath.
Okay.
So that's what they look for in these environments.
Right. Well, thank you. Is there anything else you need from us tonight?
No, we appreciate this. We appreciate the comments that came from staff, and it puts us in a good progress for our official application and review, and we look forward to seeing you at an upcoming meeting.
Great. Well, thank you very much for presenting tonight.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Okay, board members, a couple more things to go. We have a discussion item. Burger King, we are to discuss the revised building elevations for the property located at 4799 West Henrietta Road in a commercial B1 zoned district. Gentlemen, when you get set up, we'll have your names, please. Correct.
Good evening, Tom Huxmeyer with APD Engineering and Architecture.
What's your name again? I'm sorry.
Tom Huxmeyer.
Tom Huxmeyer. Thank
Yep.
you.
And
Tom, you're gonna have to spell your last name for me, please.
HUCHZER, M as in Mary, EIER.
What I asked. Thank you.
And then Connor Kilmer with DDS Engineers.
Basically, the revision for the facade was a motion to reduce basically the size of the building. We had a larger, more complex building prior, so we wanted to simplify that.
I'm sorry, hold on. Heather, can you hear that?
It's tough if you could just put it closer to your mouth. Thank you.
Is it on?
Really close.
Okay, how's that?
That's better. Thank you.
So the change from what we had to what we have now is basically to simplify the design. The new facade is actually taller than the previous design.
I can barely hear you. I'm sorry.
Better,
much better.
There we go.
Turning your head away, so it's,
Yeah.
so just,
All
there
right.
you go.
There you go. I'll look at you guys. Okay. So simplify the design, reduce the glazing, and the footprint for this project didn't change. There was no new alterations other than the elevation adjustments. Colors and materials are all basically the same. So there is really no further comment from us to you on that.
Thank you. Okay, I'll pull the board real quick. Mr. Borkowski, any comments? Thank you, Mr. Eckert.
Yeah, well, comment is, what's the time frame now? I mean, we've seen this before. What's the time frame for construction?
It's ASAP. They're working through the contract now to get the construction started.
Okay, because the site was demoed a good couple months ago. There wasn't any erosion control. The site was basically a hole in the ground. It's been left that way. So we'd like to, I was hoping to see something going forward to get that at least cleaned up so it doesn't. I understand it was an eyesore of a building, but now it's an eyesore of a hole in the ground.
Right.
So that's my only comment. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Eckert.
Better than the building that was there.
Like the whole-
Yeah, too.
Thank you, Mrs. Brill.
No, I have nothing. Look forward to getting to Whopper.
Mr. Page?
None at all.
Mr. McIntyre?
Why are you not having the outside dining anymore?
That I'm not certain on that decision, other than just to simplify further. They were really trying to modify and reduce any extraneous items that were on the project.
Doesn't get used all that much at all?
I don't honestly know.
Okay. All set.
Thank you. Mr. List?
All set, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, well, gentlemen, thank you very much. We appreciate your stopping back in.
Thank you.
No, Matt went. Okay.
Is the owner of the Burger King property, does he own both sites? Or she? Do they own both?
Oh, both Burger Kings?
Yeah.
No, these are two different franchisees, to my understanding.
No, I meant, isn't there another site on this property?
Oh, yeah, so there's actually, we went in for subdivision approval. Currently, it's it was a 5.2 acre lot, now it is 3 separate lots. It is the same owner for each 3 lots, and then the building will be leased out to the franchisee.
Okay, so my question, get the long story, you don't have a tenant for that other lot? Yeah,
Not as of yet.
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, one more discussion item, 225 Tech Park Drive Storage Building. We're to discuss a proposed building elevations for a 40 by 60 storage building for the property located at 225 Tech Park Drive in an industrial with mixed-use redevelopment area overlay. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Rick Carley. I'm with Nichols Construction Team, and I am presenting for 225 Tech Park LLC.
Not as fun of a name for her to write down as the other one, so.
I'm sorry?
No, I'm guessing CARLEY.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So,
Rick is RIC.
yes.
Oh, man.
Got to make it difficult, don't I? So I'm just presenting here today to put this cold storage facility up at off of the intersection of Tech Park Drive and Bailey Road. I've worked with Mr. Martin, went through the site plan and what we wanted to do, and it was requested that we try to pull this storage facility off of Bailey Road and get it back further. And we have done that. We had I met with Glenn Thornton from a site engineer to help me through the process of actually putting that storage facility back further. It's a challenging site because we've got some major utilities going through there and with the grades and whatnot, but I think we've done a good job as far as finding that location. So I guess I'll just leave it to you guys to ask me what you'd like. Happy to answer any questions you have.
Great, thank you. Now the chair will recognize Mr. Liss.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Welcome.
I drove over there today just because I'm trying to familiarize myself with all corners of Henrietta. And I didn't, I looked at the picture of the building that will be there. And to me, it just doesn't fit in with the other brick buildings that are in that. I think it'll just kind of look, that's my opinion, it'll look a little out of place. Like putting a shed next to your house that doesn't look
right. And that's why we put the wainscot, the red wainscot down below. We're trying to beef it up a little bit. And with the trees there, I mean, it's going to be sheltered somewhat, but yeah, I understand.
What are you gonna be storing? What's stored in this facility?
I know that there is all kinds of furniture and just particular files that they've had for years. I suspect some vehicles will be stored there.
Any landscaping proposed around the outskirts?
Not really a lot of room for landscaping.
Buffer
there.
that a little bit?
I mean, I'm happy to do it. If the board would like that to happen, I could very much be happy to propose that. I don't think that would be a big deal at all.
All right. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. The chair will recognize Mr. McIntyre.
Yeah, I also, the building, it's colorful, but I think it would be nice if you could match it to the existing building, so it looks more like a, planned thing.
Okay.
Is red a Nichols color or something?
What's that?
Is red kind of a Nichols color? or-
It was the brick that was used originally for that development.
Okay. Yeah.
It was try to match it, match the color, and this isn't the perfect exact color. I would need to get some samples of that panel.
Okay. Yeah. But all I see on this one.
I'm sorry?
The building EMA design automation is in?
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
not picturing red over there.
It's a brownish reddish type brick that's on the existing building right now. Yes, EMA Design Automation.
And this, may I ask, this is part of EMA. It's their, gonna
Yes,
be their
sir.
outbuilding for their,
Yes,
okay.
that is correct.
I'll say.
How's that? Okay, Mr. Page?
My only comment was to try to get the color more closely matched to the existing building. That's weathered over time, so the red isn't as red as it used to be. But I don't want it to stick out and stand out, and I thought if you could match the color a little bit, it'd be perfect. A little closer than that.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Welcome. Mrs. Brill?
Yeah, because I mean, I just brought it up and it's definitely more of a
It's almost,
brick red.
yeah, it's almost like a pink. It's like a light red.
Yeah, we're looking at the exact same picture right now, yeah.
Yeah.
I would definitely say it would have to match it as best as possible. I mean, I understand the use of that type of building. I think you're also limited to certain color choices that you can get from the
Very true.
manufacturer. So my concern is that it's gonna look like a shed on the outside of a building. Now, we all have sheds on the outside of our homes or whatever, so it's not an unattractive building, but boy, that red is a bright red. If it can be muted down from that, I think that would be certainly helpful. I mean, even if you change what we're seeing from the red to a forest green, that would blend in with the trees and the evergreens that surround the parking area much, much better. And of course, the beige in the buildings, I mean, in the images we're looking at now, the grass is drier than it probably is today after this week. But I think by taking the same building and changing the colors,
Mhm.
that would
Blend,
definitely
it would
be,
blend better, yeah.
I would look at going with the beige and more of a
Forest green.
type of thing. I mean, that would change the look of that exponentially right out of the gate.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I am, thank you.
Yeah, I'm losing track of who's who tonight. Mr. Eckert, have I?
No.
Okay, thank
Is it
you.
okay? Can I go? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I was going to make that same comment. I mean, I would think that maybe a green roof would do a little more subdued than be stark to this degree. It wouldn't, if you're looking at to be a little bit, so I think green is readily available as well. I don't know if that's.
Yes, sir. Yes.
If that's of interest to you, but it does appear to be a little bit more consensus to the board. So that was my other comment to make to that too. The two trees that are now on the island that are directly south, are those two trees you believe will stay?
The islands are gonna have to come out per the civil engineer. So yes, the islands are gonna come out, so we're probably taking those two trees out.
Okay, so that's where I would again go, ask for some landscaping in those areas, because fortunately those trees would really probably hide it pretty well. They look pretty
Yes.
decent. So some landscaping in those areas would be beneficial, I guess, to that street. So those are the other comments that I have. Otherwise, I appreciate it being pushed back and going back into the parking lot a little bit more. I don't think I've ever seen that parking lot full. I've driven by there a couple thousand times between RIP, so I don't think I've ever seen cars in that whole parking lot.
It's very rare.
Yep. So those are the comments that I have, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the chair will recognize Mr. Borkowski. Have I?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just going to
welcome.
reiterate what my cohorts are saying here. In fact, I like your idea, trying to do the red, because I get what you're trying for, but I believe that will actually backfire. It's going to be just different enough to make it look garish.
Okay.
So I agree. If we could do it more muted, more in picking up the beige out of that red, because there is a pinkish beigeish thing going on there, and then the green top, So Chris, I don't know if that's something that they could come in with actual colors and go, hey, is this good? And you can do it administratively, but
Yeah.
it might be worth being in the parking lot going, yes, this will work.
Yeah, and what I was thinking is that, maybe Rick, if you can provide us with some other colored renderings and maybe some paint chips or color chips, then, we can share them with the planning board electronically. And then if anybody wants to come in and look at the chips, or can look at it at the next planning board meeting.
So I think the location is good. So a lot of this was, we didn't want it right up at the corner of the two roads. So
And
the
that makes
location-
sense. Totally understand.
Location is better. So now all we have to work on is making this blend in as well as we can.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Borkowski. So Rick, you said there might be some vehicles in there and there might be some file storage and such. Are they gonna be individual rooms under this roof or is it
No.
gonna be one big?
Wide open. There will be no heat. It'll be cold storage. We'll have some electric coming in just for lights. And it'll be a very, it's going to be a storage facility, cold storage.
Yep. And what type of vehicles? Does the business require vehicles for itself or the owner's gonna keep his hot rods in there or?
I think he's got a couple vehicles that he personally has.
Okay.
And I didn't really get into details.
Okay.
He came to me and just said, hey, can you help me out with this? And I really like to put a storage facility here on my property.
Okay. Very good. Okay, well, I will echo the comments too about the building. As nice as that looks, I think that red really would stand out. And I like Mrs. Brill's idea of the beige, mainly beige, but with the accent of the green, the forest green. So very good. Well, listen, thank you very much for your time tonight and bringing this to us.
So just so I'm clean, I will work with Chris and getting him these, and what I'll do is I'll get you several different options if that works even better, but I'll definitely have the green in there. And yeah, I'm, whatever we can do, I can work it through Chris. Is
Very
that
good.
acceptable?
Yeah, work it through. Yeah, send everything to me, Rick, and then I'll share that with the board.
Perfect. All right.
And just stuff that's true to life color, because, so we can say, yes, this will work.
Okay, very
Yeah,
good.
I trust your instincts on this, Rick. Now that you understand from the board, you're an architecturally based. You do a lot of projects in town, so something more subdued if you want to provide maybe an option A or B or something.
Okay,
That might be maybe a little bit easier than.
perfect.
Okay.
Very
Grays
good.
might even work too. I mean, greens would be good, but a little bit more.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your
Thank you, Rick.
time. And last but not least, huh? All right.
Thank you.
Have a nice evening.
You
But
too.
You seem to know what's coming.
Okay. Chris, anything else that we need on the record or can we adjourn?
No, I think I'm all set now. I will not be at the next planning board meeting.
We got to cancel it then.
But my good friend, Chris Hauser here he's ready to take my place.
Finally go away on vacation.
Well, yeah, actually, we went away in May, but we're gonna go again and go down south and see my daughter again, so.
Nice.
Nice. I remember one time you got canceled out, like right at the beginning of COVID, I think. it was.
Yeah, COVID was a challenge for a lot of people and because of the travel restrictions, we weren't able to go, but this year we all have our shots and we're all ready.
Excellent.
So.
We have a motion to adjourn. Mr. Borkowski, thank you. 9:03.